So before we begin, we all say, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Austerity has three different aspects. And according to our faith, we will perform different types of austerities. So we also speak about austerities. Krishna is now going to talk about austerities in the three modes of material nature. There's the austerity of the body, austerity of speech, and austerity of the mind. So all three of them are different forms of austerity. Us being austere in terms of our bodily habits, what time we wake up, what time we sleep, what we eat. Then austerity according to being austere in our speech, being controlled in our speech. It's actually a very big austerity, not to say the wrong things, not to criticize people. This is an austerity. And then the austerity of the mind. Probably the most difficult one is, the mind can go anywhere and everywhere and no one will notice, and we're not accountable to anyone other than Krishna and ourselves regarding what's in our mind. But if we are focused in our mind, that we want to fix our mind on Krishna, that is called the austerity of the mind. Austerity in sattva of the body. There's worship of the Supreme Lord, worship of the Brahmanas, worship of the spiritual master, worship of the parents, cleanliness, simplicity, non-violence, and celibacy. These are the austerities of the body. Very interesting that Krishna mentions these things, that these are austerities of the body, recognizing that these are very difficult for people to do. So people say, well, this is very hard. Yes, indeed. That's why it's called an austerity, but it still must be done. Worship of the Supreme Lord is, not easy. We have our desires make us go here and there, but focusing and worshiping on the Supreme Lord, doing austerities for the Lord, our sadhana, our preaching, our service, is an austerity of the body. Of course, of the words and the mind, but it's also the body. Worship of the Brahmanas, the devotees, when they come and visit us, it's an austerity. And how do we, keep serving them is very difficult. Worship of the spiritual master. The spiritual master's instructions are sometimes difficult to fulfill, or to worship the spiritual master every morning through prayers may be difficult to be done, but that is an austerity of the body. Worship of the parents. So Krishna in general talks about superiors, but then he specifically talks about parents. They are the first spiritual master. They are we have gratitude. We must offer them respect, care for them, worship them, and that is the instructions of the scriptures. So that is true for non-devotees, but also for devotees. Sometimes devotees think that, well, since I'm a devotee of Krishna, and I'm serving Krishna, this duty does not apply to me. But here we are seeing that this is part of our service to Krishna, is to not be ungrateful, but to perform our duties in terms of our superiors, seniors, and that is an austerity of the body. So it is not easy to take care of the elderly, and it may cause some discomfort. And Krishna, therefore, is calling it an austerity, recognizing that it is not easy, but it's something must be done. Then we have cleanliness. like we see in this image, waking up in the morning and taking a bath, brushing our teeth. These are things that we prefer not to do. We want to lounge around and just have a fun time until we feel like taking a shower. But devotees, the first thing they do after they wake up is take a shower. They clean themselves, which also means using the bathroom, brushing our teeth. That is cleanliness. Simplicity. Simplicity is an austerity. Right? It's actually easier to be uh, to not lead a simple life. Our natural instinct is to hoard things, like just keep a lot of things and live very luxuriously. But if a person takes voluntarily the austerity to live simply, then that is a great asset. That is a great benefit. And non-violence. Non-violence, this is an austerity, living away a non-violent life. So a very interesting point because animal rights, animal protection, animal care comes in this, right? And this can become a spiritual principle of service to Krishna, because these are obviously, because Krishna's mentioning them, these are austerities to Krishna, right? Not just austerities for ourselves, but austerities for Krishna, because Krishna wants us to do these things. So the austerity of the body is non-violence, and this can also include environmental principles, right? Being non-violent to the earth, non-violent to nature. So sometimes you say, well, that's that's just karma yoga. That's not really bhakti. We shouldn't really worry about the environment. But here Krishna is saying that no, that is non-violence. Non-violence is the austerity of the body. And finally, we have celibacy. This is Prabhupada says, the foundation of spiritual life. Without the practice of celibacy, one actually cannot make advancement in spiritual life. The mind will be too disturbed. The body will be too contaminated. Prabhupada says in the purport, he should not indulge in sex outside of married life, for sex is sanctioned in the scripture only in marriage, not otherwise. This is called celibacy. So the minimum, the basic standard is sex life within marriage, right? And at least in that ashram, in that context, one can be peaceful and think about Krishna. Illicit sex life outside of marriage. There's Prabhupada in one purport, he writes, it is he says, it is not possible for one to go back home, back to Godhead, if one engages in illicit sex life outside of marriage. And then he says, unless he gets the causeless mercy of a Vaishnava, but otherwise it is not possible. So very difficult if people do not practice celibacy and they try to be spiritualists. So the very basic core minimum is that it must be within married life. But then as we advance spiritually, then even within marriage life, celibacy means, Prabhupada writes very clearly without any doubt, he says it means only for the procreation, the generation of children, of Krishna conscious children. That is actually that. And then Prabhupada says, obviously that's a stage in life, is to have children. But then after that, Prabhupada says, completely giving it up. And completely giving it up means the giving up the attraction to sex life. So that is the gold standard. So one gradually progresses in our spiritual life. As we progress, this happens naturally. Of course, outside of Grahastha ashram, it means none, nothing. I was just reading a verse in the Bhagavatam, and it said that in household life, there's actually 8 forms of sex life. Only one of them is the physical act. The other ones are more, um, well, there are still physical, the other seven, but it's like, touching, speaking, conversing, sitting together, all these different forms. So he said, so the Bhagavatam verse was saying that it is natural in grahastha life for the other seven to be there, for there to be an emotional connection, to be to sit together. These things do not disturb one's bhakti within household life. Outside of household life, all eight are not there. So it is a more difficult, you could say, a more focused life. But then that presents also a greater opportunity for spiritual advancement because that austerity is more. So the advancement may be more. Then, after describing the austerities of the body, Krishna describes the austerity of speech. And these are very nice to actually uh, talk about in a class or something and cover the three types of austerity because people are curious. What is it that they need to do to please God? And here Krishna's describing that. So, the austerity of speech in the mode of goodness is speaking what is truthful. Right? Very famous verse of the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna talks about not just so many aspects of speech, as you'll see. So we must speak what is truthful. And interesting, he mentions this first in the Sanskrit, that satyam, it must be truthful. Once it is truthful, then they think, well, okay, I can say whatever I want because it's true. No, but then the truthful words should also be pleasing. They should be said in a way that pleases the heart and the soul. Then that which is beneficial. One second, sorry. Then speaking words that are beneficial, using words that are not agitating to others. So they should be pleasing. They should be, well, I may say something pleasing, but that's not beneficial to that person. So we should also say that's beneficial, just like if I flatter someone who should really not be flattered, it may be pleasing to that person, but it's not beneficial. It should also be done in a beneficial way. It should also be done in a way that doesn't agitate others. Krishna says in the Gita, right, that a devotee does not act in a way that agitates others, but rather he engages them in devotional service. And by engaging them in devotional service, automatically their hearts and minds are purified. And finally, they should regularly recite Vedic literature. So the austerity of speech consists of all of these things. Austerity and sattva of speech are words that are truthful, pleasing, and beneficial. One should speak truth defined as what is upheld in the Vedic scriptures, and one must be prepared to quote from the scriptures to back up one's statements. Prabhupada is writing, speech should be pleasing to the ear, not harsh, and what we say should benefit the hearers. If there's no benefit to speaking the truth, one should be silent. Very interesting point. If there's no benefit to speaking the truth, one should be silent. So we're always supposed to speak the truth, but someone may say, well, when should I say it? When there will be a benefit. If a person will hear the truth and they'll become more averse to the truth, then it's not that we will speak falsity, but what is the use of speaking the truth? Of the three main principles here, truth, pleasure, and benefit, the most important is benefit. Our truthful statements should have a positive effect on us and those to whom we speak. Very interesting. So we see in the scriptures that truthfulness is greatly emphasized. We see Satyam Param Dhimahi, that Krishna himself is known as the absolute truth. But we should always stand by the truth, but whether we speak it or not, we must weigh that what will be the benefit. How should we speak it so it is beneficial? Or rather, how we should speak it so it's beneficial. And at all costs, we should not speak what is false. We should not lie. But not lying and speaking the truth are two different things, right? We may not lie, but that doesn't mean we have to say something, right? We can just remain silent. And we should say something when it is beneficial. And Prabhupada says, if it is, see, he begins by this. He says, one should speak the truth. And what is the truth? Meaning we speak based upon scripture, because that is truthfulness. That is the truth. If we're speaking the philosophy of illusion, then that's not beneficial. That is just living the illusion, right? That's just, it holds no benefit. One way of assessing benefit is to consider whether or not the listeners are our students. In other words, whether or not the persons to whom we are speaking have agreed formally or informally to listen to us. If such a contract exists, then we may speak seemingly harsh, beneficial truths. But if there is no such contract, then generally we don't give instruction. So we see the example of Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna does not give instruction to Arjuna until Arjuna himself is ready to hear. Until Arjuna does not say to Krishna, Shishyasteham Shadi Mam Vam Prapannam, that I am your servant, I am so surrendered unto you. Until he actually doesn't say this, Krishna does not give instruction. Krishna does not speak. He does not give Arjuna a lecture. Only when he is wanting and ready to hear, which may take a long time, people take their time. But until they are actually willing listeners, willing students, one should not give instruction. So that is the informal or formal contract, right? The children, for example, by nature, are ready to listen to the parents because they're children. But as you know, when they grow up, it becomes the opposite. And that's why Prabhupada says that after a certain age, one can only be their friend because they will not listen to the parents. But then once in a while, when they become, bewildered, or you could say anxious, and they see that they need help, they may be willing listeners. So we should try to instruct in a way that the person will actually listen to us. When speaking or writing, therefore, we should ask, is this true? Can its truth be supported in the scriptures? Has this person, by their words, social position, or actions, exhibit a sincere willingness to accept the truth I will speak? Will this truth and the manner in which I'm presenting it actually benefit me and the hearer? Am I presenting it in the most beneficial way? Is my presentation in pleasing language so that it is more likely to be accepted? Is my presentation in pleasing language so that it is more likely to be accepted? So all these questions we can ask. They're such nice questions. And then here's a wonderful quote from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 23rd chapter, text 3. Sharp arrows which pierce one's chest and reach the heart do not cause as much suffering as the arrows of harsh, insulting words that become lodged within the heart when spoken by uncivilized men. So if it's very insulting and harsh, then what is the use of our words? That's worse than shooting an arrow in someone's heart. So that's why the austerity of speech is so important, because without the austerity of words, we actually cannot practice the austerities of the body. What was one of the austerities of the body? One of the austerities of the body was non-violence. So we cannot actually practice non-violence until our words are violent to others. Austerity and sattva of the mind is satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, purification of one's existence. These are the austerities of the mind. Satisfaction. Satisfaction is something that is an austerity, which means it's something that is practiced, right? So satisfaction is not a state of mind, it's actually a practice. We can have nothing and be fully satisfied. We can have everything and be unsatisfied. So satisfaction, it doesn't come from having or not having certain things. Satisfaction is something that we are able to practice and experience. Again, a very important instruction that we should actually practice satisfaction in our life. The second one is simplicity. Very interesting. What other austerity of the words or the body mentions simplicity? Who remembers? Oh, go ahead.
Prabhuji, austerity of the body.
Yes. In the austerity of the body, also, we had satisfaction, simplicity. So we should live physically simple, not too many things, not too many frills. And that comes from satisfaction or simplicity of mind. We should also be very simple in mind. This is actually a very devotional practice that when in some problem or in some situation, or just in terms of thinking about things, we should be very simple in our mindset. Um, we should not have like a um, complicated mindset. Right? We should be very simple. Uh, don't we should not what is it? Duplicious, saying one thing, doing another thing, manipulating things, agitating things, just simple. Then gravity, becoming very grave. That is an austerity of the mind. Not not jumping from one thought to another, from one mindset to another. Being grave, that is an austerity of the mind. Such a nice point. We don't think of these things. Because then when we are steady, we can actually accomplish things over time. Right? When we are grave, then we can sustain something that we are doing. The natural tendency is to do something different. I myself, have this thing. Okay, we work on this, then we work on that. Like you start changing, but if we keep steady on one thing, even if it is not so successful, but we are doing it for a higher purpose, and we know we're doing the right thing, we keep to it. That is gravity. When we think deeply about something before acting, that is gravity. Self-control, controlling ourselves, our body, our mind, senses. This is austerity of the mind. No, I won't think of this. I won't let my mind go there. That is self-control. And finally, purification of one's existence. Purifying one's existence, purifying our body, mind, and words. This is the austerity of the mind. And how do we do that? By fixing the mind on Krishna. Austerity of mind is to be fixed in Krishna consciousness and always thinking of the welfare of others. This will lead to satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of existence. So what leads to all these qualities? Being fixed in Krishna consciousness and always thinking of the welfare of others. This will lead to satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of existence. which are also austerities of the mind. I was just reading a very amazing purport by Srila Prabhupada in Canto 5, Chapter 18. I think it's text 12, maybe, um, where Prabhupada says that when we think of the welfare of others, then we become free from envy. Or rather, freedom from envy means thinking of the welfare for others. And when we can do that, then we become very broad-minded. We can help many people. We can um, uplift many people because we're not thinking of our own welfare, but we are thinking of the welfare of others. A devotee is someone who wants to see others gain the same good fortune that they have. Right? A devotee is someone who wants to share the good fortune that they have with others. That is a simple definition of a devotee. Each of these austerities are progressively more difficult. It is harder to control speech than the body, and harder to control the mind than the speech. Mind, body, words, right? So we think, oh, it starts with the mind. Well, the mind is the hardest to control, then the speech, then the body. And that's why, where do you think generally austerity starts from? It starts from the body. Because if we can at least be austere physically, then that trains the words and then the mind. And then it starts with the speech. If we control our speech, then our mind will also be controlled. Because it's progressively harder, so you start with the easier. Right? That's, of course, we can do it the other way also. But that's actually the process sadhana bhakti, that okay, at least do it physically, then the words and the mind will follow. The stage of nishta or brahma bhuta is when all three, body, mind, and words, are fully controlled and used only to serve Krishna. In this stage, this control is not yet fully spontaneous, but uses determined willpower. Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur says that generally one will first become fixed in body, then in words. That here. Vishwanath Chakravarti says that generally one will first become fixed in body, then in words, and then in mind, though the order will vary according to an individual person's strengths. Right. So, um, and this is what I said. Okay, sometimes it can also be different, but generally it starts with the body, then the words, and then the mind. Because if our body is also engaged in sinful activities, then how can you control the mind? Right? That's the whole idea we were talking about: service to superiors, avoidance of illicit sex, all these things. So if one's not doing that, and then how can one fix the mind? It's just literally impossible. But if one's doing that, then the mind can follow. Mind can then become peaceful and fixed on Krishna. Austerity and sattva, with faith without fruit of desires. Austerity and goodness should be for our own internal purification and permanent satisfaction. So it should be for our internal purification and permanent satisfaction. So this is also Bhagavatam describes, and this is also um, one of the characteristics of austerity in the mode of goodness, is that it is done not for personal strength, but for purification, not for power, but for purification. Um, Vijay Prabhu has this seminar that he gives, The Joy of Austerity. And because, he's been a lifelong brahmachari, he would distribute books, travel from campus to campus, and led a very austere life. But this is a point that he makes, that is actually so joyful. It's so satisfying to be austere. And this is the point here, that it's done for purification and satisfaction. There's a great inner joy in that life. Austerity in rajas or passion is for increasing respect, honor, and worship. So I perform great austerities, just like politicians do as well, musicians do as well, um, sports persons do as well. I mean, it's not easy, the life that they live, very difficult. But the intention is for honor. I'll become famous. I'll become the best. Respect and worship. It is not for service to Krishna. In text 18, Krishna says, in passion, one does austerity to gain temporary respect and adoration. And we all know it only lasts a few years because then we all die and life goes on. No one even remembers our name. In passion, one does austerity to gain temporary respect and adoration. And then finally, austerity in tamas. It's foolishly done. Not, okay, at least the person in the mode of passion, they're doing it to improve themselves. They're not in the mode of ignorance. They're not sleeping all the time. They're doing something, okay, I'll become rich, famous, wealthy, or happy. But then in tamas, austerity is done not just, I mean, not even what to speak of for oneself. It's done to hurt others. One performs such great austerities, but to cause pain to others. While austerities and passion will probably indirectly cause pain to others, austerity and ignorance is done with a deliberate intention to hurt oneself and others. And not just others, but oneself. One does this austerity to even hurt oneself. One in goodness should therefore always desire others' welfare, even if those others hurt oneself. Such an amazing. A devotee cannot tolerate paradukha dukhi, suffering of others. So they are performing austerities always to help others, thinking of their welfare, even if those persons are inimical to them. Very difficult stage. I mean, at least one, will just, if one doesn't try to fight back, one will just stay away from them or just hope that Krishna will teach them a lesson. But here it's being said that one is actually working for their welfare. That is the heart, the divine heart of a Vaishnava. Their heart is so pure, so kind, and this is why Krishna becomes purchased by such a person. That they have a desire to uplift and help even those who hurt them, who try to hurt them. That is Haridas Thakur, right? Being beaten in 22 marketplaces. But it's said that Haridas Thakur, Chaitanya Bhagavat, it mentions how while being beaten, he was such a great devotee that if someone is to even touch such a great devotee, what to speak of beat them, Krishna would have destroyed them immediately. Just like in the case of Jad Bharat, right? And he wasn't even as great as a devotee as Haridas Thakur, relatively speaking, is pure devotee, but Haridas Thakur has a special position of Namacharya, very, very exalted devotee. So in the case of Jad Bharat, the deity of the Kali, it bursts open and she comes out and chops off the heads of all those who are trying to kill him. That's how great a devotee is. So in the case of Haridas Thakur, the very fact that they were whipping him and beating him in 21 marketplaces, 22 marketplaces, they should have immediately been destroyed. But Krishna had a big problem. What was the problem? That he could not destroy them. The centuries, they're called centuries, the ones who do the beating. Krishna was going to burn them up immediately on the spot. They would have bursted into flames. But Krishna couldn't do that. Why? Because it's described that Haridas Thakur was continuously and actively praying for their welfare. Like while being beaten, he was praying to the Lord that you must protect them, you must save them. So Krishna couldn't do anything to them. because the devotee was praying for them. And in doing, and in them being protected by Haridas Thakur, Krishna couldn't destroy them, yet he also had to protect Haridas Thakur. He also had to find a way to protect his unalloyed devotee, because he says this in the Bhagavad Gita, Name Bhakta Pranashati, right? They cannot be vanquished. And so therefore, what was the only solution? What did Lord Chaitanya have to do? What did Lord Chaitanya do? Just unmute and speak, so I can't see everyone.
Do you repeat, Prabhu, the question?
The question is, so when the centuries were beating Haridas Thakur, then Krishna would have, destroyed or burned up such sinners who were beating his devotee. But he couldn't do that because Haridas Thakur was praying for their welfare. Yet, Lord Krishna could also not allow Haridas Thakur to suffer because he protects his devotees. So then what did he do?
He took the lashes onto himself.
Yes.
And showed Haridas Thakur the marks on his back.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yes, and that's why in the Chaitanya Charitamrita we find that section where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when Haridas Thakur comes, is showing lashes on his back. Of course, in 1 second they go away. The Lord is never bruised by anyone. But just to show, to make the point to the Haridas Thakur and the whole world, how much the Lord is compassionate towards those who are the objects of mercy of his devotee, and how much he is protective of his devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted those lashes on his own back. He was filled with those marks, and Haridas Thakur did not feel anything. So, because this quality purchases the Lord, right? The Lord cannot withhold himself, stop himself when he sees this quality in a person who is so compassionate that they're desiring the welfare of even those who hurt them. And that we see in the example of these great souls, such as Haridas Thakur. So this is the summary of austerity, a very important section of the Bhagavad Gita, the austerities in the three modes. Very interesting, Krishna talks about these things because spiritual life is largely all about austerity. And so Krishna is actually so kind, he's describing to us what is the correct way of even doing austerity, even worshiping him. And here we see the summary. I've covered all of these things in detail, so I won't go over the summary. I won't, read it out, but you can make a note of it. You can see it. So, but the one point is that there's austerity in tamas, rajas, and sattva, and we talked about that. But there's also austerity that it's even higher than austerity in the mode of goodness. And that is austerity on the transcendental level, done in bhakti, which is, here it's said so nicely, Mother Urmila in her, this is all based on her slides. She writes so nicely that it is in goodness for the pleasure of Krishna. So austerity in bhakti is not just for the pleasure of Krishna, because we may do something that we believe is for the pleasure of Krishna, but in a very harsh way or in the mode of ignorance. Just like Osama bin Laden, he's now kind of a historical figure, but when I was growing up, very prominent figure. He was also doing what he was doing, his terrorist activities, he was doing it for God. He was doing it for Allah. But it wasn't in the mode of goodness. It was in the mode of ignorance. It was done to hurt others, right? So one can have devotion to Krishna and worship Krishna, But that's not fully pleasing to Krishna, because Krishna says in many chapters, chapter 12, chapter 10, I believe, um, where he describes the quality of a devotee. He says they're kind, they're friendly, they're equal to all beings. And he says, if such a person worships me, they're very, very dear to me. He says it. So anyone who worships the Lord is dear to him. But he says, but one who has these qualities, which is sattva gun, truthful, pleasing, sweet, beneficial, uh, service, humble to superiors, then these qualities combined with bhakti make Krishna very, very pleased. He says, such a person is very, very dear to me. Right? Krishna says that he's very dear to me. So that is, yes. And then we have charity in the modes. We talked about austerity, and now the last one, I believe it's the last one, is charity in the three modes. Because we're also yajna dana tapa shocham shantin arjavam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam. No, that's a different one. Yajna dana tapa shocham shantim arjavam evacha. That Krishna says in the Gita that yajna dana and tapa, these three things, and one of them is dana, should never be given up. Like dana should never be given up. So it's very much part of our spiritual process. So how do we do it correctly? And the correct mode of nature is being described here. Charity is not just money. We can give in charity our time, our words, intelligence, knowledge, objects, and place. You see, if we think, oh, this person's so charitable, they donated $10,000. Yes, they are very charitable. But there's other forms of charity as well. If someone, invites devotees in their home, gives their place for the service of devotees, it's a sacrifice that is also charity. To share one's knowledge with others is charity. Most importantly, to share one's time. When one's sharing one's knowledge, one's giving up one's time for others. No one's paying them for that time. That is a charity. One's words, that is charity. Intelligence is charity. Objects, then, is the last one. Objects is money, possessions, that we can also give. So all of these things are ways to be charitable. Charity in sattva without fruit of desire to proper person at proper time and place. That is charity in the mode of goodness. Charity will help us make spiritual advancement if it is in connection with Krishna, given to spiritually advanced people at a holy place or an auspicious time. Simply helping a poor person is not necessarily spiritual. So it has to be done to please Krishna, in connection with Krishna, for spiritual advancement. That's the first thing. Charity that's done correctly needs to be done for spiritual advancement. And it should be given to the right person. It can be given for the purpose of spiritually uplifting people who are not spiritually advanced. But if it is given to a spiritually advanced person, then it is definitely in the mode of goodness. If it is done at a holy place or the right time, the auspicious time, it is in the mode of goodness. Simply helping a poor person is not necessarily spiritual. What does this mean? Why is not helping a poor person or helping a poor person not always in the mode of goodness? Can someone give an example of this, where we can be helping a poor person, but it's not charity in the mode of goodness?
Giving money to a beggar who then gets it to buy cigarettes or liquor.
Yes, perfect example. So when we give charity to someone who will misuse that money, that can be in the mode of ignorance. That's a wonderful example. Can someone give another example? Like, they take just drugs. That's why we distribute Krishna Prasadam, because we don't want anyone to be hungry, and we want them to eat the right food and become spiritually and materially nourished. But if you just give money, they may use it to buy more drugs. The very reason why they're in that poor situation. Another example. Just unmute and speak if someone has that's that not giving to a poor person can be. Just like I was thinking of this example, if you give a yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, Prabhuji, it's okay. You can.
No, go ahead.
Maybe like if we give it in the wrong place and we give the charity to somebody, and if it gets stolen and that somebody else's uses it in a wrong way, then
Good point.
it will come for us. The results will come to us. Some of it.
Yes, very good point. That if we, if we give it at the wrong place at the wrong time, it may be given in such a way that it hurts someone else, or someone else steals it and misuses it. And to what you're saying, an example that was coming to mind is giving a teenager or a young person a super fast sports car, right? So they don't have money there because they're young, they don't have a job, uh, and a parent may want to give them something, but if they give them something like very much like what you're saying, which will end up hurting them because they don't know how to handle that, it will not be beneficial. They'll end up in an accident. You hear this so often in newspapers. You read that a rich man's son died because they had a Ferrari. They actually had the money for a car because their parents were so rich, but that very car caused their death, right? So what is the use of such charity? And that's one example, kind of an extreme one, but we have so many examples like that. Giving a child a phone, right? They're going to misuse the phone. They want it, but they're going to misuse it and it won't be good for them. Or a computer or a laptop. So many things. Just giving something by itself is not necessarily the right thing to do. We have to think, what is it? Again, beneficial. It comes to that same principle of speaking. Even giving the truth. Giving the truth we said knowledge is charity, right? It's a good thing. I mean, what greater benefit can you give someone by telling them what the truth is? But if it's not beneficial, it was not recommended. The same thing is with charity. If it's not beneficial, it may be something that they want, but they should not receive it. Charity in the mode of passion. The proper charity, or to give your family a nice flat screen TV that's, 6 foot by 4 foot in size. Well, I bought this for my family because I love them so much. But then everyone's glued to the television because it's such a big TV right in the middle of the house. Or even buying a TV to begin with. Is that real charity? The proper charity given with the wrong attitude can be in the mode of passion or ignorance. So one is that you can give also to a saintly person, give right charity. So you're giving the right thing to the right person at the right time. But if we do it with the wrong attitude, the mindset can make it in the mode of passion. Charity that will only increase someone's material entanglement is also in passion. Yeah, see, these material gifts that we give, if they increase a person's entanglement, they're not in the mode of goodness, they're in the mode of passion. So, and what about the wrong attitude? So if someone's doing the right thing, but here mode of passion is being mentioned as charity that is done in a grudging mood for reward. I'll give this charity and I'll be respected, and I better be respected, right? That is That is charity in the mode of passion. If the mindset is not correct. When we collect charity for our Krishna conscious activities, we should consider whether or not our means of encouraging giving brings out people's goodness or passion. Do we encourage them to seek recognition in exchange for their gift? Right. So sometimes we need to do that to convince people to give. We have to give them a lot of honor and mention to them that their name will be on a plaque, it will be permanently inscripted in the temple, and they will be recognized in every Sunday feast for the next 100 years, because that's the way people give, because they're in the mode of passion. They are wanting only to do things that reflect the mode of passion. But unnecessarily, we should not encourage people to give charity in the mode of passion. We should actually encourage them in ways that will make them rise to the mode of goodness. Charity in passion can also be at the request of a superior or with regret afterwards. We need to take care not to push people to give when they really don't want to, because then their charity will be in the mode of passion. They will regret afterwards. Why did I give that donation to the temple? Of course, for the service of Krishna, for preaching Krishna consciousness, sometimes we do need to push people a little bit, because that's for their ultimate welfare. And we know that, though they don't. And that's the way how Agyata Sukriti, how some people make spiritual advancement. But if we do it too much, then later on they won't give. Right? If we push too much, and really it's like rubs them the wrong way, and we walk away with a donation, then we get the donation, but we don't get the donor. And those who are very seasoned in fundraising, in our movement, they always say we should cultivate donors, not donations, right? So if you cultivate a friendship and they give out of love, then they'll keep giving. They'll give every year, they'll give more, they'll give happily. But if we cultivate um, the mood of pride, and we just say, oh, you must give, then you'll be so famous, or you must give because really otherwise you're really a bad person, or out of guilt we make them give, then they will not want to give the second time. They may give once, but they will not give the next time. And in the Bible, there's a similar message. Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. Charity in tamas, in the mode of ignorance, to improper person or at wrong place or without proper respect. Text 22. Ignorant charity can be where the externals are the same as in goodness, but one's mentality is in ignorance. Or one can be giving externally to someone or something that promotes harm in society. Right? So if you give charity to Vijay Nrsimha Prabhu's example, to a drunkard, to a sinful person, then that charity is given to the wrong person. It will expand and encourage sinful activities. If you give charity to the National Gun Association, right, so that we have freedom of guns and people can, they can sponsor guns for people, then what is the use of that charity? Right? That causes harm in society. That is in the mode of ignorance. So that is mode of ignorance, or one can be in the mode of ignorance, even ignorance, and giving charity to the right person, but out of an ill motivation. That is rather hard to be in the mode of ignorance. Like if we give to a devotee and we give with the motivation that, I'll become super wealthy or something, then that's more the mode of passion, giving to the right person, but with the wrong mindset. So, um, so one has to be like really, I'll give, really have an ill motivation. Like I'll give in charity to get to the right person, to this devotee, to get their benefit so that, later on I can hurt them, something like that. And people do that actually. They give money to control others and then, take advantage of them. That would be kind of in the mode of ignorance. So here, charity is summarized. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And of course, higher than that is in goodness. So it has these qualities given out of duty without expectation of return, proper time and place, and to a worthy person to please Krishna. So we're doing that, but it's the key thing there, the key purpose there is to please Krishna. And in pleasing Krishna, when we please Krishna, then uh, that charity becomes successful. That I'm doing this charity, I'm doing this sacrifice for the pleasure of Krishna. Rajas is with expectation of return or in a grudging mood, with regret later on, or simply out of obligation. And tamas is in an impure place, improper time to an untrustworthy person. So, sattvic charity, hands help from a happy heart. That is sattvic charity. So finally, text 23 to 28 conclude by describing how we can get free from the defects in one's worship, food, sacrifice, charity, and austerity, right? All the things that we talked about in the three modes, we are probably in one of these modes, in the modes of passion or ignorance. So how do we become free of the defects in our worship? That is the motives of passion and ignorance in our worship, in our sacrifice, in our food, in our austerity, and in our charity. So Krishna is so kind. He tells us the process by which we can purify it. After identifying it, knowing what the problem is, he does this over and over again in the Gita. It's so amazing. He'll identify, okay, this is where you're at. It's goodness, passion, ignorance. Like he's the perfect teacher, right? And then one can immediately see this is what I'm doing wrong, or this is where I'm at. And then he doesn't leave you there. He then describes, well, how can you then come to the perfectional level? The main theme is activities directed towards the satisfaction of the Lord, satisfaction of Lord Krishna. Take one out from the influence of the three modes and lead to an eternal life. The key thing is do it for Krishna's satisfaction. That will remove the modes of material nature. That will, whatever imperfections there are, that will go away because we're doing everything for Krishna's satisfaction. In the purport to text 23 of this chapter, Prabhupada writes, when one performs penance, charity, and sacrifice, with these three words, Om Tat Sat, he is acting in Krishna consciousness. And Om Tat Sat literally means for Krishna. Om Tat Sat. As long as austerity, yajna, and charity are performed in the modes of nature, they are materially contaminated. The words Om Tat Sat in the Vedic hymns indicate that an act must satisfy the Supreme Lord to qualify as spiritual. When Om Tat Sat is chanted along with the performance of sacrifice, charity, and austerity, it removes the discrepancies inherent in those activities and ensures that the consciousness of all participants is elevated. So what does this mean? Why those three words? Because those three words are a reminder. I'm doing this for Krishna. I'm doing this sacrifice for Krishna. I'm doing the charity for Krishna. I'm doing the austerity for Krishna. So Om, the sound Om, now he describes, what does this Om Tat Sat mean? The sound Om in the beginning of every Vedic hymn addresses the Supreme Lord, because the impersonalists are very much afraid of addressing the Supreme Lord Krishna by his innumerable names. They prefer to vibrate the transcendental sound Omkar, but they do not realize that Omkar is a sound representation of Krishna. Just like in the Bible also it says, right, that one should not call out the name of God in vain, and one should not say the name of God unless one is qualified. So because of that fear that how can we say the name of God, they just say Om. Right? But Prabhupada is saying that they don't realize that Om is also a name of Krishna. It is a representation of Krishna. The jurisdiction of Krishna consciousness extends everywhere, and one who knows Krishna consciousness is blessed. Those who do not know Krishna are in illusion, and so knowledge of Krishna is liberation, and ignorance of him is bondage. Srila Prabhupada writes extensively about Pranava, Omkar, in his purport to Chaitanya Chaitanya Adi 7:128. The letter A denotes Balaram, the son of Rohini, who is the substratum of the entire universe. The letter U denotes Pradyumna, who is the supersoul of the universe. The letter M denotes Aniruddha, who is the supersoul of each individual being in the universe. And the Bindu dot above the M denotes Sri Krishna, the fountainhead of all Vishnu incarnations. So this is actually the confidential understanding of this word Om. Balaram, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. All the three forms of Vishnu are described, or rather, the three first expansions of Krishna are present in the letter Om. Jiva Goswami, in his description of the alphabetical constituents of the mantra, Jiva Goswami, in his description of the alphabetical constituents of the mantra as follows. Akare no chate Krishna sarvalokaika nayaka ukare no chate Radha makaro jiva vachaka. Om is a combination of the letters A, U, and M. The letter A refers to Sri Krishna, the letter U refers to Sri Radha, and the letter M refers to the Jiva soul. So here we see how, according to the consciousness of a devotee, they will have a different realization with the same spiritual name, right? Just like the word Rama in the Mahamantra is a similar one. That Rama can refer to Krishna because he is the supreme enjoyer. It's also a name of Krishna. It can refer to Balaram, and it can refer to Lord Ramachandra. And whatever one's rasa or mood or connection with the Lord is, one will realize that form of the Lord or the presence of the Lord in that way, right? So the same thing is with the word Om. Om denotes the Supreme Personality of Godhead, But based upon our realization, we will see a certain form of the Lord becoming manifest in that spiritual vibration. Thus, according to Jiva Goswami, the inherent position of the Jiva soul in the Om mantra is that of a maidservant of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. Just see. So, such confidential knowledge, such esoteric, deep rasa is found in our Goswamis, even in the word Om, which is kind of like the most generic way of referring to the absolute truth is Om, right? It's kind of like the English word God. It's just like the most generic thing. God is great. God is good. So Om is like, if you want the most general. And here, Jiva Goswami is saying that, you know what it exactly means? It means that we are an inherent servitor of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna in the groves of Vrindavan, in Brajadham, right? So, I mean, it's not there directly, but these acharyas, they pull out the deep meaning, the ultimate, most confidential meaning of the Vedic mantras. Tat, what does tat mean? Om is used both by those desiring liberation and those following the Vedic rituals for materialistic purposes. But tat is only used to become free from fruitive activities. So he said Om, now tat. Tat is that. Om tat. The Lord, the devotees, and now Sat. The Lord, the devotees, and the process of devotion are all Sat, or eternal. Om Tat Sat. That Om is Sat, or eternal. That is the Sat can also mean the truth. It can also mean reality. Om is reality. Om is eternal. Om is the truth. Om Tat Sat. That's what it's being said. They are not material. These verses remind us of Bhagavad Gita 4:24. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute, and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. Om helps one remember the Lord. Tat helps one become free from the fruitive desires and attain liberation. Sat helps one dedicate the activity to the pleasure of the Lord and his devotees. So these are practically how they help us, what they remind us. So these are the three meanings of it. Now, how do they apply? When we say Om, we can remember Krishna, right? We said it represents Krishna, A-U-M. Tat is, I'm not all of this material thing, right? This is not reality. This is not truth. So it helps us become free from fruitive desires and attain liberation. And Sat, this is the eternity. This is the truth. So this helps one dedicate activities for Krishna and for his devotees, because we realize that this is what is Sat. This is what is truth. Om Tat Sat. When initiating a person or offering the sacred thread, one vibrates the words Om Tat Sat. When initiating a person or offering the sacred thread, these words are said. Similarly, in all kinds of performance of yajna, the object is the supreme, Om Tat Sat. The words Tat Arthiyam further means offering service to anyone, to anything which represents the supreme, including such service as cooking and helping in the Lord's temple, or any other kind of work for broadcasting the glories of the Lord. So before honoring prasadam, when making the offering, one can say Om Tat Sat. These supreme words, Om Tat Sat, are thus used in many ways to perfect all activities and make everything complete. So by saying Om Tat Sat, it reminds us that I am, this food is for Krishna. This food is Krishna's mercy. And I am accepting this food to please Krishna. So here's a summary. Om Tat Sat describes activities done for the sake of Krishna. Om means Vishnu. It is placed at the beginning of Vedic hymns to indicate the supreme goal. Tat describes detached work for the sake of liberation. Sat means eternal. Activities for the sake of the Lord are eternal. The performer becomes eternal. Benefits are eternal. Text 28. And what of faith, sacrifice, charity, and austerity done without Om Tat Sat, or without faith in God? So what if a person is doing these things and they don't have faith in God, they don't say Om Tat Sat? Real faith in Krishna coming from a bona fide guru is essential in order for all our activities to bring us what we truly desire. So if we do something good, but we do it without faith in Krishna and the spiritual master, then it doesn't bring that result. The chanting of Om Tat Sat or any name of God must be done by someone, at least with some initial faith. Here Prabhupada hints at the progression from Adav Shraddha to Prema. But although this process of Krishna consciousness is certainly gradual, it is still direct when compared to the process of elevation from material piety. So the entire path of bhakti is gradual. However, it is still so much faster. It is still so much more direct than the process of just elevating oneself with material piety. Religious activity not performed in the proper consciousness, the mode of goodness, is practically useless. Utpatayeva kalpate. It is actually a disturbance to society. Therefore, one should give up his inborn conceptions of religion, influenced by the modes of nature, and develop faith in the Shastra. Sacrifice, charity, and penance should all be performed for the pleasure of the Lord. Otherwise, these activities remain within the confines of this world, bound by goodness, passion, or ignorance. The gradual process of elevation should be avoided. Krishna consciousness should be taken up directly. So, this is the summary here. That if we do it for the pleasure of the Lord, then it's beyond goodness, right? For Krishna, it is transcendental. It frees us from the bounds of goodness, passion, ignorance, and the gradual process of fruitive work should be avoided. We should take to the path of bhakti, and finally, Krishna consciousness should be taken up directly. Directly.
Could you please elaborate the point number 3, Prabhuji? Is it like we should directly go to Siddha Sattva?
No, so yes. So here it was being said right here. Yes. So what is those of us, I think yourself also, who have taken nectar of devotion and nectar of instruction, we know that there's 9 different levels in the path of bhakti, starting from Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, and Prema. This is the gradual process to get to the place of pure devotional service. So Prabhupada is saying, yes, the process is gradual because we go through these levels. However, it's still a direct process because it's bhakti from the beginning, bhakti at the end. The really gradual process is the path of Vedic rituals, fruitive activities, karmakanda. One should not take that path. Because if we get into that path, let me, worship Durga Ji and worship this and that, and it's very relevant. Just yesterday, it was Lakshmi Puja, and families around the world are worshiping Lakshmi Devi. So we also had our Lakshmi Puja yesterday. We talked about the glories of Lakshmi Devi and how she, immediately after being born from the milk ocean, she was searching for Lord Narayan to make Narayan her husband. And so we were discussing her glories in connection with the Bhagavatam and Lord Narayan. But if we engage in Lakshmi Puja and all the rituals, then that is a fruitive path. And that path is really slow, right? Many lifetimes of performing yajnas and all these things, gradually one will come to the point of bhakti. So this is point number 3, that one should avoid the gradual process of fruitive work, karma kanda, right? Anya bhilashata shunyam jnana karmadyanavritam. Bhakti is free from the anarthas. They are actually anarthas of jnana and karma. If we want to study all the Vedas and all the books and becoming a Sanskrit scholar, it may take us many lifetimes to know about Krishna. Or we can just read the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, and come to the conclusion that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is skipping the gradual process. We can do the Vedic rituals, all this karma kanda, or we can engage in Krishna's devotional service by taking his holy name. That is skipping the gradual process. Now, when we take the holy name, it takes time, as we all know, right? We were every day trying and still not getting something clear. But that is the very important thing. That is gradual, but it is still very fast. So yes, Prabhu, thank you. So this is now the summary of all the sections that we covered. The first section was worship in the 3 modes, then food in the modes, sacrifice in the modes, austerity in the modes, charity in the modes. And then Krishna very mercifully describes how if we are in the modes and we're doing any of these things in the modes by chanting Om Tat Sat, which means, Krishna, I'm doing this for you, the Supreme Om, who are eternal. I'm doing this for the eternal, for what is real, not for temporary benefits. By keeping that mindset when we perform these things, sacrifice, charity, austerity, eating, worship, then we will become free from the modes of passion and ignorance gradually and come to the platform of Shuddha Sattva. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is perfect timing. We have 3 minutes for any questions, corrections, comments.
Could you please give some more introduction to Urmila Mataji?
Urmila Mataji, yes, thank you, Prabhu. So it's by her mercy that we have these very wonderful slides. She is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. She is a professional educator. She has a PhD in education. She ran a Gurukul for decades, and the products of her Gurukuls were very stalwart devotees. So she ran Gurukuls that were actually successful. She was the success stories of ISKCON, and she's a traveling preacher now. She, has pretty much renounced everything. She's not, obviously she's a lady, so she's not officially a sannyasi, but she's like a sannyasi. She travels around the world giving very inspiring lectures. Right now, ISKCON has not officially authorized ISKCON gurus, but ISKCON female gurus. But if and when that happens, she would probably become a guru also. She's a shiksha guru to many. It's a very amazing personality. And one of the things that she did throughout her spiritual, you could say, journey, her spiritual service was teach Bhakti Shastri. She's also a very amazing Bhakti Shastri teacher. I'm not sure if she still teaches, but if she does, she would be the best teacher. And so she very graciously gave me a copy of her slides. So these slides are all her her blessing. I make some changes to them once in a while, modify them, sometimes shorten them. They're very detailed at times. So there are certain things that, due to our limitation of time, we may cut them short or something like that. But most of the time we are using her slides verbatim. So yes, thank you to her for that.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Urmila Mataji and his great Gopal Hari Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yes, we are only operating by the blessings of our superiors, right? We read that today. Yes. Any other thoughts, questions? Vijay Nrsinga Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for this class. It was so interesting and wonderful. So many things to learn from. My question was actually related to the previous, just before we had ended, about food, the three different modes when it comes to food. Um, how do we harmonize between the fact that it says food, left longer than 3 hours is in the mode of darkness, but then it says unless except if it is prasadam, and then the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that if it is prasad, it can be kept for a very, 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 very long, long time. And it doesn't, it can still be kept for like that. But how do we harmonize that with what we do where, 1 or 2 days, if it's getting spoiled, we throw it away. How do we harmonize that with what we
Yes.
practice?
Very nice point, Prabhu. So Krishna says food that is older than 3 hours is in the mode of ignorance, right? Yet at the same time, prasadam we do serve out that it's older than 3 hours. On the other hand, we say that prasadam is transcendental. It is never bad because it is the prasad of Krishna. Yet, as you are saying, after 1 or 2 days, we are sort of obliged to throw it away because it becomes very old. Especially it's said about Jagannath Mahaprasad, right? That Jagannath Mahaprasad never spoils and it's always transcendental. So one time, I think a devotee, I was hearing a recording of a tape, a devotee asked this from His Holiness Satsvarup Das Goswami Maharaj, that it said that Jagannath Mahaprasad never spoils. So if we see spoiled Jagannath Mahaprasad, like it has, it's really spoiled, are we obliged to still eat it because it's Mahaprasad and it's never spoiled and it's transcendental, Krishna's remnants? Then Satsvarup Goswami Maharaj, he responded, he said, we should act according to our realization. So yes, it is always transcendental because it is Jagannath Mahaprasad. But if our realization, if we cannot see its transcendentalness because we are conditioned, we're not on that level, then we cannot act on the level of a pure devotee. Raghunath Das Goswami would take the refuse, like the thrown out prasad, which is the old prasad of Lord Jagannath that was on the street. Even that doesn't get contaminated. It's so pure. He would pick that up, wash it, and eat it, just so he's eating Mahaprasad and not the dirt. But he would wash that. How could he do that? Because he had the realization. He could act on that level of realization. But if we don't have that realization, we're not able to act on that level. And so therefore, because it doesn't go bad, but it is still bad, we may not consume it, but we may take that prasad and put it in the garden, like other living entities, the insects, they can eat it. We don't throw it in the trash because it's Mahaprasad. One time I went to the Jagannath temple in Mayapur, right? That's the, very special. We've all, probably many of us been there. We know that temple. It's said it's non-different than Jagannath Puri. And we got Mahaprasad from there, the Jagannath Mahaprasad. And to this day, I remember it's like so difficult to get. So we saved it so nicely to give to different devotees. And as it happens, in saving it, it's spoiled. So the Jagannath Mahaprasad spoiled completely. And that time, this same thought came in mind. This is Jagannath Mahaprasad. It's so sweet. But it had spoiled. And so I still distinctly remember I never eat old food. I don't have that realization. But that prasad, somehow I just started eating it. And it was spoiled. But it was so good. I've never had spoiled food that's so good. And I didn't get sick at all. It was just that because it's, from Mayapur, Jagannath Mahaprasad. It's so special. And this was not like the dry prasad. It's actually the wet prasad that really spoils. So, so just for, a glimmer, that time I got to realize, okay, this is actually something transcendental. But I couldn't do that daily because, like Satsuru Das Goswami is saying, that we have to act on our level of realization. So the issue is with our realization, not the prasad itself. So yes, we should never throw away Mahaprasad, but we may throw it away because of practical, consideration. And even there, we should throw it in the garden, not in the trash, like, make it available to other living beings. because it's so transcendental, it's special, it's for them. They can, that's a good example, right? Like a living being in the form of a dog has no problem eating old prasad because they have that realization and they have the capacity.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, or is there a second part to it?
Just like practically, like, say if we've made kheer at home and we've offered that as prasad, 2 days later it's gone sour. It's not something I can, put on the grass or in the, so it just, practically speaking, on a day-to-day life, it's difficult to understand what's the right thing to do.
So there's also the potency of prasad also, right? So there's prasad and there's mahaprasad. So what you actually offer to the deity, that actual offering, because that's mahaprasad, right? That I wouldn't throw in the trash. That I would put, out in the garden. But the entire pot, it's still, though there's no distinction, there is a distinction. Mahaprasad is special because it's actually the food that was in front of the eyes of Krishna, right? So it has a special quality. Similarly, Jagannath Mahaprasad offered or any Mahaprasad offered in a temple, cooked by Brahmanas, offered to the installed deity, has more power, is more, Shuddha Sattva than what we offer at home. So it also has to do with the quality of the Mahaprasad. That we have to respect it or kind of deal with it accordingly, and its potency, how much. So I had this experience with the Jagannath Mahaprasad in Mayapur. I didn't have that experience with home offered food, because home offered food, okay, if it spoils, I immediately taste it and I can't eat it, right? So often it happens. There's no question. We don't even think about it to eat spoiled prasad at home. But this was from the Jagannath deity, and it was the actual, the things, the clay pots that they put in front of Lord Jagannath. So that was something that we couldn't spoil, that we couldn't throw.
That actually helps for distinguishing between prasad and mahaprasad. So that actually makes it clear. Thank you. That helps, because we usually take that mahaprasad and add it to the main pot so that everybody knows prasad. But I think that clarifies it, and maybe we should stop practicing that so that we just honor the mahaprasad separately and then the rest of the prasad separately. So if the rest of the prasad spoils, then we can still not feel so bad that we got rid of mahaprasad. So that helps. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. And actually, many temples and devotees do that. They don't mix the Mahaprasad with the rest of the food. And if they need to give it to everyone, they'll go, and walk down the aisle and give everyone a little piece. Or not like when it's a buffet style serving, then you'll see this very common, New Vrindavan, everywhere you'll see, they have separate compartments for the Mahaprasad, right? So everyone's taking little bit. So yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. That helps.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Such amazing instructions, isn't it, in these chapters? The Gita is so relishable. Make sure to read the translations and the purports. And next time we will start with our final chapter, chapter 18. Congratulations, everyone, to making it to the home run to chapter 18. And it's actually, in some sense, the conclusion. It's the most special chapter. Krishna brings everything in the chapter 18 for us. So we will see you all next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the
Thank you,
wonderful
Prabhuji.
class.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you so
Hare
much.
Krishna. Thank you.